Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Star Trek The Lost Era, Catalyst of Sorrows by Margaret Wander Bonano. This is the last book in the Lost Era series as it was being published in about 2003-2004. This book is set in between Star Trek the Undiscovered Country, or sorry, Star Trek Generations, and the Star Trek The Next Generation, in that kind of in between time period. And this one is only about 4 years before The Next Generation is supposed to start, so it's really inching up close to the TV show, the Next Gen era, and it follows primarily Nyota Uhura, and also Ben Sisko. So this is very much a spy-inspired book. There's a John le Carré quote at the beginning of the book. The book is about, there's this virus that is spreading around, and they believe it is a manufactured virus. It is created with the intent of wiping out populations. And somehow it has a 100% success rate in killing people who get it. And so this is freaking out everybody in the galaxy. And it's particularly worrying the Romulans. And Uhura is now the head of Starfleet Intelligence in this book, and she is working with her contacts on Romulus to try to figure out what's causing this virus and who did it and what. And so there's a lot of spy elements to the book, and the book really feels like kind of two stories blended together. The first story is the setup. It's all the, figuring out what's up with the virus, trying to figure out who did the virus, trying to figure out what they need to do in the reaction. It's all the planning stuff. And that I found riveting. I thought the planning part of the book was great. I loved it. And then I thought that the second half of the book follows, instead of following Uhura, it follows Sisko, who Uhura encourages to pilot a ship that is going to go undercover, and he's going to go and try to apprehend the bad guys, the people causing the virus, and he's also going to try to distribute the antidote and stuff, and the cure. And so the second half of the book is about Sisko's perspective, the first half's about Uhura. And just the Sisko stuff just never connected with me. Sisko felt out of place in the book. He felt like it should have been Tuvok instead. I think Tuvok is a better fit, especially with his time in Starfleet Intelligence, especially with his character development in the book otherwise. I think Tuvok was a better fit. Sisko just felt out of place. But still, it was a very enjoyable read overall. I really enjoyed getting to see the different doctors working together. You had Beverly Crusher was present. You had McCoy, which McCoy is like 130 years old, and yet he's still kicking around. If you've seen the pilot of The Next Generation, Encounter at Farpoint, you saw what he looks like, and this is just 4 years before that. So he's pretty old, and Nyota Uhura, she's 120, so she's only like 10 years younger than McCoy, and yet she's still working full-time as the head of Starfleet Intelligence. And I'm just like, really? Really? After reading this book, I don't want to hear anyone complain about having Vaughn in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine relaunch books, who was 90 years old and was the captain of a starship. I don't want to hear any complaints about that after we have Uhura, the head of Starfleet Intelligence, when she's 120. Anyway, but it was just odd to see their dynamic as a really old two people, and also they just have a fun dynamic. Like, Uhura's been around for a long time, and she knows exactly how to deal with McCoy, and McCoy knows how she's dealing with him, and he's like, you know what, fine, I'll join in your group. It's crazy, but that's what I do. I complain and grumble, and you convince me to do it somehow. And so I liked their storyline there. It was the second half of the book has some interesting twists, but I don't think that the twists are as good as, say, the twists in Deny Thy Father, which was another Lost Era book. I thought this book was tighter. I thought that the storylines were better overall, so this book got a higher rating, but this book is still really good. Catalyst of Sorrow is still really good, and they're both miles better than Art of the Impossible and Well of Souls, which I just did not like Well of Souls at all. Just did not like it. Art of the Impossible was fine. It was a fine read. It was not good, but it was fine. This is, second place of the 4 that I read, but still a really enjoyable book overall. So I'm glad I read it. We are moving on to some standalones over at the Literary Treks podcast, which, by the way, the reason I've been picking the last few months of Star Trek books, if you're like, why are you picking these specific ones? It's because I'm on Literary Treks with Casey Pettit. We're a show produced through Trek FM, through Matt Rushing, and we decided we've been going through the Lost Era, and so now that we're done with the Lost Era, we're doing a few standalones for the next few months, and then we're going to do some another series, which we'll announce soon. But that's why we're finishing up this. So that's why I chose this one to read this month. And it was a quick read. I got it done in like 2 days, but hopefully my next few Star Trek reads will be faster because these are actually still pretty long for Star Trek because they're really small font. But at least I'll give the Lost Era something. They have they kept the scheme, the design scheme, the same across all the books, and they have the same font size in all the books, which is really nice. There are other Star Trek series where they would change the font size mid-series because one book would be super long, one book would be super short, and they're trying to make them the same page count. And at least Lost Era was consistent. So if you've read The Catalyst of Sorrows, the final Lost Era book, I know there's one that technically came out like 10 years later that is set in the Lost Era, but it's the final one in that original publishing line that they did that was like 6 or 7 books. Anyway, if you've read this, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.